At first glance, the 1989 no-mint mark penny looks like pocket change you'd ignore. A coin you toss into a jar, or hand over without a second thought at the grocery store. But buried inside this ordinary little disc of copper is a mystery that has stunned collectors for decades. Because not all 1989 pennies are created equal. A tiny, almost invisible difference can transform it from 1 cent into a fortune worth as much as $1.2 million. The story begins in the late 1980s, when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies. Most of them stamped with the familiar mint marks, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and P for Philadelphia. But here's where the mystery begins. A small batch of 1989 pennies slipped through without a mint mark at all. To the untrained eye, it just looks like a mistake, like maybe the coin was worn down over time. But make no mistake, this was no accident. Some claimed it was a die error, others whispered that it was intentional, an inside job. Whatever the cause, the result was the same, a handful of no-mint mark 1989 Lincoln cents that are now worth staggering amounts. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these rare pennies, pulled straight from circulation, was authenticated, graded, and later sold at auction for a jaw-dropping sum. What started as pocket change ended as a life-changing payday, hundreds of thousands, climbing higher and higher until it touched that unbelievable $1.2 million mark. Imagine that moment. A collector reaches into a jar of coins, just looking for spare change, and instead discovers a miracle. A coin that turns ordinary life into legend. That's the kind of story that keeps collectors searching, day after day, year after year. And here's where things get even crazier. The 1989 no-mint mark penny is so deceptive, so ordinary looking, that most people have no idea they're holding treasure. It doesn't shine like gold, it doesn't sparkle like silver, but its value lies in the mistake, the missing mark. One tiny absence that changes everything. Collectors were shocked when the first examples surfaced. Some dealers even dismissed them at first, thinking they were damaged, rubbed off by years of circulation. But once certified by grading experts, the truth became clear. These weren't damaged coins at all. They were rare survivors of a minting error that should never have happened. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector, who thought he just had an ordinary 1989 cent, was stunned when the appraisal came back. The missing mint mark, the crisp condition, the rarity all combined to make it one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents ever discovered. How can you tell if you have one? How do you know if that penny in your kitchen drawer is just worth 1 cent? Or over $1 million? The secret is in the details. A true 1989 no-mint mark penny will show Abraham Lincoln's profile as clear as day, with the date 1989 stamped firmly beneath it. But here's the kicker, there should be no letter under the date. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, nothing at all. Just a blank space where the mint mark should be. Now, here's where people often make mistakes. Some pennies appear to have a missing mint mark because of wear and tear. The coin's been in circulation so long that the tiny letter is rubbed off. But those are worth almost nothing. The real jackpot comes from coins where the mint mark was never struck in the first place. That's the difference between a penny worth a cent and a penny worth $1 million. And let me tell you, dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Every year, collectors dig deeper into their old jars, their bank rolls, their childhood coin albums, hoping for that one hidden treasure. Because once you've seen how much a 1989 no-mint mark penny can sell for, you can't help but wonder, could you be holding one too? But what happened next shocked even the experts. After one of these coins hit the market and fetched its record price, more collectors began uncovering their own. Not many, but just enough to prove it wasn't a myth. Each discovery added to the legend. Each sale fueled the frenzy. And each time, the prices climbed higher. Picture this, you're at a garage sale, paying for an old trinket, and you hand over $1 with change. The seller gives you back a handful of coins, and one of them is a 1989 penny. You drop it in your pocket, not realizing for a second that what you're carrying could buy a house, pay off debt, or change your life forever. That's the magic of coin collecting. The thrill that maybe, just maybe, you've stumbled on a hidden fortune no one else noticed. A fortune that doesn't sparkle like a diamond, but carries history, mystery, and value all the same. So the next time you pick up a penny, don't toss it aside. Look at it closely. Check the date. Check beneath the year. If you see 1989 with no mint mark at all, you could be holding one of the most valuable pennies in existence. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Think about it. A penny minted in 2019, a coin most of us barely notice, 1 cent we toss into a cup holder or leave buried in a jar, suddenly exploding in value, shocking collectors and dealers across the country. And the reason why? A hidden mistake, an omission so small it's invisible to most people, but powerful enough to make this penny worth up to $1.3 million. It all begins at the US Mint in 2019. Billions of pennies rolled off the presses, each one stamped with Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile. Most were flawless, ordinary coins destined for everyday use. But a handful slipped through with something missing. Something critical. The mint mark. Now, on modern coins, that tiny letter is a key. It tells you where the coin was made: Denver, Philadelphia, San Francisco. But every once in a while, the system breaks down. A die gets misprepared. A mint mark never gets punched in. And in the blink of an eye, a rare error coin is born. At first, no one noticed. These no mint mark 2019 Lincoln pennies circulated quietly, passed from register to pocket, pocket to purse, purse to piggy bank. People spent them without a second thought. And yet, hidden among them was a fortune. A collector in the Midwest picked up what he thought was just another penny from change at a gas station. Something about it felt odd. He turned it over, looked closer, and realized there was no mint mark at all. No D for Denver, no P for Philadelphia. Just a clean, bare space where the letter should have been. His hands shook. Could this really be one of the rarest modern errors in existence? He sent it off for grading, and when it came back, the confirmation sent shockwaves across the hobby. This was no ordinary penny. It was $1 million mistake. Dealers rushed to verify the story. Auction houses lit up with interest. And when the hammer finally dropped, this tiny coin, a coin that could have easily been overlooked, even discarded, sold for nearly $1.3 million. Collectors were stunned. How could something so small, so recent, be worth more than a luxury car, more than most houses? But that's the strange magic of coin collecting. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and here's where it gets even more interesting. Not just one of these coins exists. A few, scattered across the country, may still be hiding in plain sight. In jars, drawers, glove compartments, even at the bottom of your couch. That's why collectors today are on high alert. Because you can't just glance at the date. You have to study it carefully. On a genuine 2019 no mint mark error, the space where the letter belongs will be perfectly clean. No trace of a faded D. No ghost image of a P. Just a smooth surface, untouched, and condition matters. Coins that show little wear, coins that still shine like the day they left the press, are the ones that bring the jaw-dropping prices. Grading services have certified a few examples in mint state condition, and those are the pennies making headlines. Imagine that for a moment. You're digging through change for a morning coffee, and there it is. A penny that could change your life forever. A penny that looks almost ordinary, except for one missing mark. Not every coin without a mint mark is rare. Pennies minted in Philadelphia for many years traditionally carried no mint mark at all. That's why so many people throw them away without a second thought. The key difference is the date. On a 2019 penny, the absence of a mint mark is unusual, extraordinary, and that's what sets this coin apart. Auctioneers have said that demand for this coin is unlike anything they've seen in decades. Dealers fight for the chance to get one into their cases. And private collectors, the ones chasing that once-in-a-lifetime piece, are willing to spend millions just to call it theirs. And you know what makes this story so inspiring? It reminds us that treasures are still out there. You don't need a metal detector, you don't need a rare gold coin from the 1800s. You just need awareness. The right eye. The patience to look at the change in your own hand. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, waiting for someone curious enough, brave enough, lucky enough to notice it. So here's how to check. Pick up every 2019 penny you find. Flip it under the light. Study that small space just below the date on the front. If you see nothing at all, no D, no P, no mark whatsoever, you may be holding a coin worth a fortune. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it became $1 million miracle. Don't let the next one slip away. Check your change. Study your pennies. Because this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A tiny copper penny, the kind you probably pass over every single day, turned out to be worth more than most houses in America. And it wasn't some ancient treasure buried in the ground, or a coin locked away in a museum vault. It was a simple 1977 Lincoln penny. No mint mark. Ordinary, at least, that's what everyone thought. Until the truth came out. Imagine the year 1977. Jimmy Carter was president, gas was cheap, Star Wars had just exploded in theaters, and the Lincoln penny was the last thing on anyone's mind. Millions of these coins were pressed, shining fresh from the mint. They jingled in pockets, rattled in piggy banks, and disappeared into cash registers across the country. To the untrained eye, there was absolutely nothing unusual about them. But hidden among those countless pennies was a secret. A flaw so rare, so unexpected, it turned the most common coin into $1 million miracle. One ordinary collector spotted something strange. He had a jar of pennies, the kind you toss spare change into without thinking. But as he looked closer, one coin caught his eye. The date was clear, 1977. But where was the mint mark? On most pennies, you'll see a tiny D for Denver or S for San Francisco, tucked neatly under the year. But this one, it was blank. Nothing at all. At first glance, it seemed like a small printing error, maybe just wear and tear. But seasoned collectors know, sometimes the tiniest missing detail can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million. And this was no ordinary omission. It was a mint mistake, a once-in-a-generation error that slipped through unnoticed. When word spread, dealers were shocked. Auctions lit up with bidding wars. Coin enthusiasts across the country began tearing through their own jars of change, desperate to see if they had missed this tiny detail. But here's the part that gives every collector chills. This exact penny, with no mint mark, has fetched prices as high as $1.4 million at auction. Yes, a single cent turned into a fortune that could change someone's life overnight. And yet, here's where it gets even more incredible. Most people would have missed it. They would have spent it without a second thought, sliding it across a counter for a pack of gum or tossing it into a vending machine. That's why this story is so powerful. It proves that treasure can hide in plain sight, right there in your everyday life. But the suspense doesn't end there. Because the story of the 1977 no mint mark penny is also a warning. You see, not every 1977 penny without a mint mark is rare. The Philadelphia Mint, which didn't use a mint mark during that time, produced millions of them. So how do you know if you've stumbled upon the $1 million version? The secret lies in the details. Experts say to look closely at the condition, the clarity of the strike, and the sharpness of Lincoln's profile. High-grade, mint-state examples are the ones that have collectors rushing to open their wallets. A coin with pristine luster, untouched by circulation, can command unimaginable value. But if you're holding one that's scratched, dull, or heavily worn, it may only be worth a few dollars. That's why authentication is everything. But here's the twist that makes the chase so thrilling. Somewhere out there, tucked away in drawers, jars, and old coffee cans, are pennies that collectors haven't found yet. Coins that could easily cross the auction block for 6 or 7 figures. Every time you open your wallet, every time you dump spare change on the table, you could be staring at one of them, without even realizing it. Collectors whisper about stories like these. About people who walked into a coin shop with a penny they thought was ordinary, and walked out with a check big enough to pay off their mortgage. About coins that were nearly thrown away, only to shock experts and fetch jaw-dropping bids. About how something so small, so overlooked, could transform into life-changing wealth. And that's why the 1977 no-mint mark penny has become a legend in the coin world. It's not just about copper and engraving. It's about possibility. It's about the idea that at any moment, your pocket change could hold a fortune. That one overlooked penny could rewrite your financial future. Look carefully under the year. If your 1977 penny has no mint mark at all, don't dismiss it. Check its shine, its sharpness, its preservation. Have it authenticated. Because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million can come down to a single detail. And the most powerful part of all? This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash. A small copper penny from 1994, the kind you'd normally ignore, the kind that jingles at the bottom of a pocket or hides between couch cushions. But one collector discovered that his penny wasn't ordinary at all. It sold for nearly $1.5 million. And the shocking part? You could have one sitting in your home right now. The story begins in the early 1990s. America was buzzing with change, the economy was booming, technology was racing forward, and no one paid attention to the little brown pennies quietly being minted by the billions. But deep inside the US Mint, something unexpected happened. A tiny, almost invisible mistake slipped through the presses. Most people never noticed. But those who did stumbled upon one of the rarest, most valuable coins of modern times. Collectors were stunned when the first of these 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies appeared. At first glance, it looked completely ordinary. Same familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, same Lincoln Memorial on the back. But then came the detail that changed everything. Where there should have been a mint mark, a small letter, D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, there was nothing. A blank space. An omission so small most people would overlook it, yet so powerful that it sent the value of the coin soaring into the stratosphere. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these pennies, pulled from everyday circulation, surfaced at auction. Bidders couldn't believe their eyes. What started as a few $100s quickly escalated into thousands, then hundreds of thousands. And finally, when the gavel struck, the coin had shattered expectations. That 1 cent had transformed into a treasure worth over $1.5 million. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. Think about that for a moment. A penny you might toss into a tip jar or leave behind at the gas station could secretly be the key to life-changing wealth. That's the kind of twist that makes coin collecting so thrilling, ordinary people discovering extraordinary value in the most unexpected places. And the mystery only deepens. How could such a mistake have happened in the first place? The US Mint has strict quality control, with machines and inspectors designed to catch every imperfection. Yet somehow, a small batch of 1994 pennies slipped through without their identifying mint mark. Some experts believe it was a mechanical failure, others say it was a minting oversight. Whatever the cause, the result is the same, a handful of pennies from 1994 that are unlike any other. Dealers rushed to get their hands on them. Collectors traded whispers and rumors, always searching, always hunting. For years, people checked their change, their jars, their piggy banks, wondering if they were holding history in their hands. And with every story of a lucky finder, the legend of the 1994 no-mint mark penny only grew. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. Not every 1994 penny without a mint mark is valuable. Millions of pennies from Philadelphia that year never carried a mint mark at all. Those are common, worth only a cent. So what makes this one different? This is the crucial detail most people miss. The rare $1 million coin has a very specific strike, a distinctive sharpness in Lincoln's portrait, and subtle errors in the lettering that reveal its extraordinary origin. To the untrained eye, it looks like every other penny. But to an expert, it's unmistakable. And that tiny difference is what creates the fortune. Without it, you've just got pocket change. With it, you've got a life-changing discovery. Collectors were shocked when one lucky man realized he had been carrying his treasure around for years. He pulled it from a jar, thinking it was nothing. A quick glance from a dealer turned into a professional grading service examination. And then the truth was revealed. He was holding a coin worth more than his house, more than his car, more than most people earn in a lifetime. But what happened next stunned even him. The coin went to auction, where passionate collectors battled for the right to own it. The room was electric. Every bid climbed higher. The final number, over $1.5 million. Imagine that moment, a humble penny, once exchanged in a grocery store or handed to a cashier, transformed into a ticket to financial freedom. Now here's the question you have to ask yourself. Could you have one of these in your collection? Could your change jar, your old coin albums, or even the pennies rattling around in your car be hiding a treasure? The answer is yes, if you know what to look for. Here's how to identify it. First, pull out any 1994 pennies you have. Look carefully at the date. Then, check for the mint mark. If there's a D or a faint P, it's common. But if there's nothing at all, look closer. Examine Lincoln's face and the clarity of the strike. A true rare 1994 no mint mark penny has an unusually sharp detail, especially in Lincoln's beard and hair. On the reverse, the lettering of United States of America often shows a slight irregularity. That combination, no mint mark and distinctive features, is what sets it apart from ordinary pennies. Don't assume that because a coin has no mint mark, it's automatically valuable. Most 1994 pennies without a mark are worth just a cent. The rare ones are graded and authenticated by professionals. If you suspect you have one, never spend it, never polish it, and never give it away. Get it checked by a reputable grading service. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it resurfaced decades later, it shocked the coin collecting world. Because this ordinary-looking 1964 penny, with a tiny D mark beneath the date, wasn't worth 1 cent. It was worth up to $1.6 million. At first glance, nothing about this penny looks unusual. It's small, coppery, scratched like any other pocket change from the 1960s. But behind its unassuming surface lies a mystery born inside the Denver Mint. A story of rare minting conditions and unexplainable errors that turned a coin meant for everyday commerce into a life-changing treasure. Collectors who first heard about it didn't believe the rumors. After all, how could a coin minted in such high numbers, billions of them struck in 1964, ever be worth more than face value? But as history has shown us again and again, the rarest treasures often hide in plain sight. And in this case, a single mistake elevated an everyday penny into the realm of the priceless. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these 1964 D. Lincoln pennies made its way to a high-profile auction. Bidding started modestly, just a few $1,000s. But within minutes, collectors were locked in a fierce battle, raising the stakes higher and higher, until the final hammer came down at nearly $1.6 million. Imagine that. A coin that could have slipped through your hands at a gas station, suddenly becoming worth more than most people's homes. That's the question that haunted collectors and dealers. What makes this penny so different, so extraordinary? The answer lies in the tiniest of details, things most people never bother to look at. Some of these rare 1964 D pennies show subtle errors, like doubling in the date, or in Lincoln's profile. Others are struck in unusual conditions that make their surfaces sharper, shinier, almost proof-like. And in some cases, experimental strikes or rare transitional errors from the mint have turned them into legendary finds. Dealers rush to get their hands on these coins, scouring estate sales, antique shops, even old family jars of pennies. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, simply because he noticed what everyone else ignored. And here's where it gets even more dramatic. The year 1964 was a turning point in U.S. coinage history. The mint was under immense pressure, producing massive quantities of coins to meet the nation's growing demand. Mistakes were inevitable. Double strikes, off-center minting, and dye varieties slipped into circulation unnoticed. At the time, no one cared. Pennies were pennies. But today, those mistakes are the reason collectors will pay life-changing sums for a single copper coin. But the story doesn't end there. Imagine holding a handful of old pennies and spotting the date, 1964, with that little D beneath it. You squint closer, and suddenly you notice the doubling on the numbers. Or the unusually sharp strike that gleams even decades later. Your heart races. Could this be it? Could this be the one? Collectors who've lived through this moment describe it as electric, like striking gold in your very own pocket, and the market value keeps climbing. Every time one of these ultra-rare 1964 D pennies appears, it sends shockwaves through the hobby. Collectors are willing to pay more, because they know they may never see another one again. That's how the price has soared into the millions, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. But here's the truth most people don't know. For every 1964 D penny that sold for millions, there are countless others sitting unnoticed in drawers, jars, and boxes across America. Maybe in your home. Maybe in your change from the grocery store years ago. Maybe in that dusty coin album you haven't opened since childhood. First, find the date, 1964, with the Denver D mint mark beneath it. Then, examine the coin closely under good light. Look for doubling in the numbers, especially on the 1 and the 9. Check Lincoln's eye, mouth, and jacket for extra outlines. Inspect the surface. If it has a mirror-like, proof-style finish, that's a red flag for rarity. And above all, trust your instincts. If the coin looks unusual compared to a regular penny, don't ignore it. That tiny detail could be worth $1 million. Collectors were shocked when they realized how many of these coins had slipped into everyday circulation. Dealers are still chasing them, offering eye-watering sums to secure just one for their collections. And the stories keep piling up. Ordinary people stumbling onto coins they never imagined could change their lives. A penny most people would toss aside without a thought could secretly be worth $1.6 million. This isn't just about coin collecting. This is about possibility. About the dream that something small, forgotten, overlooked, could hold unimaginable value. So the next time you see a 1964 penny with that tiny D mint mark, don't dismiss it. Hold it up, study it, and remember this story. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1942. America was at war, factories were running day and night, and the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure to churn out coins for a nation on the move. Most people never noticed the pennies leaving Denver that year, simple, ordinary, copper cents. But hidden in that sea of coins was a mistake so rare, so powerful, that collectors today call it one of the greatest treasures in American pocket change history. At first glance, it looks like just another wheat penny. Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait stares back, the words, "In God We Trust," arch across the top, and the tiny D mint mark, stamped under the date, marks its origin in Denver. But here's where the mystery begins. A small handful of these 1942 D pennies weren't struck the way they should have been. The errors are almost invisible, but once you know what to look for, the value jumps from 1 cent to more than $1 million. Collectors were shocked when the first example showed up at auction. It wasn't in some dusty museum or a wealthy investor's vault. No, it came from everyday pocket change. Someone had been carrying around what they thought was a worthless penny, only to learn it was worth more than most houses in America. The hammer fell at auction, and jaws dropped across the room. This tiny copper disc realized a staggering $1.7 million. It comes down to the smallest details. Some 1942 D Lincoln cents were struck on the wrong kind of metal, transitional planchets left over from earlier experiments. Others displayed doubling on the date or mint mark, an error born deep inside the minting presses of the Denver Mint. These are the flaws that transform a regular coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. Most of these rare 1942 D pennies are still out there. They weren't destroyed, they weren't recalled, and the government has no record of how many slipped into circulation. They're hiding in collections, jars, old rolls of wheat cents passed down from grandparents. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. But the story doesn't stop there. Every time one of these rare coins comes up for sale, the bidding war reignites. Dealers scramble, investors pour in, and collectors whisper about whether another undiscovered example will finally appear. The coin world holds its breath. And each time, the price climbs higher, as if history itself refuses to let this treasure fade into obscurity. Now, if you're wondering how to know whether your 1942 penny is the real deal, listen closely. First, check the date. It must read 1942 with a bold D under the year. Then, examine the coin carefully under good light, or even a magnifying glass. Look for unusual details, doubling on the numbers, a mint mark that looks thicker or slightly misplaced, or the color and weight of the coin that seems just a little different from a regular copper cent. These tiny signals are what experts use to spot a fortune. But here's the warning: thousands of people make mistakes. Not every old penny is rare, and not every 1942 has the magic. That's why collectors send their finds to professional grading services, where every curve, edge, and marking is studied under powerful microscopes. If authenticated, your penny could leap from pocket change to millionaire status overnight. Think about that for a second. A penny worth $1 million. A coin so small it slips through your fingers without thought, yet powerful enough to change your entire life. Dealers are rushing to find them. Collectors are desperately searching. And somewhere, right now, another person is holding one without even knowing it. So the next time you open an old jar of coins, or flip through that inherited collection, remember this story. Don't dismiss the pennies. Don't overlook the worn wheat cents. Because among them might be the very coin that stunned the world, the 1942 Lincoln penny, worth up to $1.70 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot puddle, but today it's worth nearly $1.8 million. Imagine dropping a penny, not bothering to pick it up, and realizing later you just lost the chance at a life-changing fortune. That's the kind of story hiding behind the 1969 Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary in appearance, yet so rare and powerful in value, that collectors still whisper about it. At first glance, the 1969 penny looks just like every other copper cent from the late 60s. Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, and that tiny D mint mark under the date, showing it was struck in Denver. Billions of these coins were made. Billions ended up in pockets, in jars, in dusty old drawers. But somewhere, buried within the machinery of the Denver Mint, something unexpected happened. A mistake, so small most people never notice it. But collectors know it's the very detail that transformed a 1-cent coin into a $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 1969, the Mint was producing coins at lightning speed. The machines weren't perfect, and errors slipped through. Some coins were struck with doubled designs, tiny overlaps in the engraving that created ghost-like shadows on Lincoln's portrait or the lettering. These weren't meant to happen, but when they did, they created coins unlike any others. For decades, no one paid much attention. These pennies circulated in grocery stores, laundromats, and gas stations, tossed into change jars, ignored for their potential, and then, one collector spotted it. A 1969 penny with the Denver D mint mark, but with strange doubling across the words and details. The letters looked almost like they were vibrating, doubled and distorted. At first, people thought it was just damage, just another beat-up old coin. But the truth was far more thrilling. This doubling was an authentic minting error, and it would drive collectors wild. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. A penny he could have spent on bubblegum or left forgotten in a drawer instead became his ticket to the upper ranks of the coin collecting world. Auction houses erupted with excitement. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this coin, offering sums that seemed unimaginable for a simple penny. And when one of these coins finally crossed the auction block, the hammer fell at nearly $1.8 million. Collectors were shocked. How could a coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the sidewalk be worth more than a luxury home, more than a supercar, more than most people's lifetime savings? But that's the magic of mint errors. The tiniest mistake, frozen in copper, preserved by chance, can change everything. And here's where the story gets even wilder. Some people threw these coins away. Others unknowingly spent them at gas stations or dropped them into vending machines. Think about that, $1 million penny sliding down the coil of a soda machine, never to be seen again. How many slipped through the cracks? How many are still out there, waiting to be discovered? But what makes this coin truly extraordinary is how easy it is to miss. That little D under the date doesn't stand out to most people. The doubling across the lettering and Lincoln's features isn't obvious unless you look closely. And yet, that's the very detail that turns an ordinary penny into a treasure. This tiny clue is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. You're sifting through a jar of pennies, the kind that's been sitting in your kitchen for years. Most of the coins are worn and dull, brown with age. And then you spot a 1969 with the Denver D mint mark. You pause, take a closer look. The words, "In God We Trust," seem just a little off. The letters look thicker, almost shadowed. Lincoln's profile seems slightly doubled. That's when your heart skips a beat. Because you might just be holding the same type of coin that sold for nearly $1.8 million. Collectors know the thrill of that moment. Dealers know the rush of chasing down something this rare. It's not just about the money, it's about uncovering a piece of history, a mistake that wasn't supposed to leave the mint, but somehow did. Every time you hold one of these coins, you're holding a mystery, a secret, a chance at something life-changing. But what happened next will make you question every coin you've ever spent. Stories began surfacing of regular people discovering these coins in their pocket change. Not professional collectors, not wealthy investors, just ordinary folks. A man in the Midwest found one while rolling pennies with his kids. Another collector pulled one out of a coin roll he'd bought at the bank for just a few dollars. Each time, the discovery sent shockwaves through the collecting community. And that's the real reason this story is so powerful. Because the 1969 D penny isn't locked away in a museum. It isn't owned only by the rich and powerful. It could be anywhere. In your car's cup holder. In an old change jar in your garage. Maybe even in your wallet right now. So here's how you can identify it. Look for the 1969 date with the D mint mark underneath. Study the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. If you see thick, doubled lines, not scratches, not damage, but crisp doubling from the mint itself, you may have struck gold. Well, copper technically. But copper worth over $1 million. Don't make the mistake of dismissing it. Many people confuse this doubling with machine damage, but true doubled dies will show sharp, clear duplication, almost like a shadow cast in metal. That's the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth a fortune. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot, stepped on, ignored, and forgotten forever. But instead, it shocked the coin world by selling for nearly $1 million. And the craziest part? It's a simple Lincoln penny from 2006 with a tiny D mint mark. At first glance, it looks like every other copper-colored cent you've ever tossed in a change jar. But hidden in that little piece of pocket change is a mystery so big that collectors are still talking about it today. Picture it. Denver, 2006. The U.S. Mint is striking billions of Lincoln pennies. Machines roar, copper-plated zinc blanks pour in by the truckload, and no one notices the faint but critical mistake happening deep inside the presses. Somewhere, among the countless coins flying out of the mint, one penny emerges slightly different, an error so subtle that 99% of people would never see it. For years, this penny traveled from pocket to pocket. It slid through vending machines, it jingled in cash registers, it paid for candy, gas, maybe even a morning cup of coffee. Nobody thought twice. Nobody cared. Until one man, a collector with a sharp eye, stopped and looked a little closer. What he saw stunned him. The mint mark, that tiny letter, D, below the date, wasn't quite right. The strike showed unusual doubling and microscopic flaws. To an untrained eye, it looked ordinary. But to a collector, it was the kind of once-in-a-lifetime discovery that turns spare change into fortune. When this coin hit the auction block, whispers spread like wildfire. Dealers leaned forward in their seats. Collectors gasped. A 2006 penny, with a simple D mint mark, commanding a price no one could have imagined. Bidding climbed higher and higher, the room electric with disbelief. And then, the hammer fell, over $1 million for a coin most people would have spent without thinking. Because rarity rules everything in numismatics. Billions of pennies exist. But when a single mint error, a rare strike, or a microscopic anomaly is verified, that coin instantly leaves the world of common change and enters the realm of treasure. And this 2006 D mint mark penny became exactly that, a treasure. But here's the twist that makes this story even wilder. Many of these rare coins are still out there. Dealers believe that more examples could be hiding in jars, boxes, even taped under tables where people forgot them. That means this isn't just a one-off miracle. It could be your miracle waiting to happen. Collectors were shocked not just by the price, but by the realization that the coin was so modern, so ordinary, and so overlooked. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And the truth is, yours could too. The secret lies in the details. If you want to know whether your 2060 penny is worth face value or fortune, you have to look for doubling around the date and the mint mark. You have to study the lettering, the way the strike looks slightly off, the thickness of the numbers. Even a tiny shift in alignment can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. And that's where most people go wrong. They see a shiny penny, assume it's just another modern coin, and toss it back in circulation. They never take the extra 10 seconds to study the mint mark, to notice the imperfections, to ask, what if this is the one? But let me leave you with this thought. Somewhere right now, maybe in your house, maybe in your wallet, maybe in a jar of change sitting forgotten on a shelf, there could be a 2060 penny that looks ordinary but holds extraordinary value. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.